there is so much stigma that women are carrying around menopause, and so much of the discomfort of the menopause transition happens alongside such huge shifts in life. Maybe you are going through perimenopause and all of these wildly fluctuating hormones at the same time you have teenagers in the house or kids leaving the house.
Hello everyone, and welcome back to the How to Fitness podcast with me, Michael Ujoa.
And me, Kate Lyman.
And today we are back with a Kate Lyman deep dive. Very excited. I've got my mug here with me that says, which Kate finds hilarious, it says Daddy on the side, which my wife bought me. I'm not sure about the context of why she bought me this mug. We will not delve into it. Kate, how are you?
Michael always turns it in so you can't see Daddy. I like it because I like to giggle mid-episode when you take a drink. How am I? I am fine. You asked that earlier and I said I'm fine, and you were like, same. Michael and I just started new courses, right? You and I both. And
yeah, tell everyone what course you're doing, and then
so I'm doing the National Academy of Neuropractitioners neuronutrition course, and I am both excited and like hating myself. That's how I would describe it. I just like don't have capacity to take something else on yet. Here I am having done that. But I'm really excited about the course itself. So it's a lot of, it's kind of like a graduate level deep dive, for lack of other words, into kind of like neurobiology and physiology of nutrition, and specifically how to navigate nutrition, for very specific populations, those with like grief, stress, trauma, things like that, neurodivergent folk, like a lot of hyper specific information that does feel exciting for me to dive into. But I'm also like, where's the time to do that?
it sounds like a really easy course, Kate, like a really nice, straightforward one, you know.
Yeah, and what are you doing?
During COVID time, it feels recent, but it wasn't. So that's probably like 6 years ago or so. I did my postgraduate in performance nutrition. And then the course that I did my postgrad through, they're called the Institute of Performance Nutrition. I really recommend them. Anyone thinking of doing further education, not an ad. They basically contacted me saying, we've got a new bridging course with the University of Portsmouth, and you can come and complete your master's if you want to come and do your master's. And I thought, we've got a newborn baby and a really busy business. Let's do a master's right now.
Definitely the time for that.
Yeah, so I got all through my course material through this week, and I don't want to say I'm overwhelmed, but I'm a little bit nervous, you know, trying to fit it in time-wise.
That's how I feel.
But I am excited too, because it's something that I've wanted to do for a long time. I just kind of put it off because it felt like it wasn't the right time, but this opportunity's come up and I just had to kind of snatch it. But
that's actually kind of wild that we're both starting. Like I had orientation on Monday. So it's kind of wild that the timing has worked as such. But I will say I've deferred, actually. I had to start now because I already signed up several months ago.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay.
Because I was like, I can't do this. And then I was like, wait, I'll never be able to do this. Like,
that's the thing, like, yeah. Other things just get put on our plate and we stay busy. Yeah. So we might as well just do it now. I might be able to get this course done, if I'm really efficient, by the time Emma goes back to work from her maternity leave. So it could work out quite well. Yeah.
Best of luck.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. But we always seem to do things at the same time, months, Kate. So we're always like quite aligned, like when we had the kids. Yeah,
it's true.
This is busy, new courses. So yeah, we're in this together, Kate. It's fine.
We've got it. We'll keep each other accountable. Okay, I have to tell you something kind of weird where I prepped really hard for this episode, as I usually do. But I've had like a lot of stress around this episode. I don't know if it's just like, for context of listeners, like this is my first deep dive coming back recording. I don't know if it's going to come out first, but for season 4, but like I've had like 3 days of intense anxiety around this episode.
Right. There we go. Truth is out there. I felt like that last week when we recorded my deep dive as well. I don't know. I was just second guessing everything. I felt, it's weird.
What's that about?
I don't know.
That like, I mean, like we took like a month off.
I know, it's really not that long. Although since recording, we have realized that the podcast is doing quite well, and we didn't ever look at the stats because we're both really busy. We're just going through the motions, and we were like number 7 in the UK, number 30 something in the US for the fitness podcast, and like, yeah, people are listening now,
people are listening, yeah.
Pressure's on, Kate. So no, I'm trying to make you feel better. Pressure's on, Kate. Step it out.
So, well, I will say for me, I think a lot of the anxiety is wanting to do this topic justice. Should we just get into it?
Yeah, go for it.
I have zero faith in my ability to keep this to an hour.
Yeah, I'm ready. I've got my tea, so I'm chill. Let's do it.
Turn that mug around.
There we go. Try to keep a straight face now, Kate.
So we're going to talk about menopause today. And I think a lot of the stress I'm feeling is there's so much to say and there's so much that I'm going to leave out of this conversation. And it was really hard to like narrow down what to tackle around this topic. But ultimately, what I wanted to come down to was kind of the vein of what we talk about often in all of our episodes, Michael, which is like, what is the misinformation and or like kind of predatory information around this topic, and how can we prepare ourselves to be better consumers of information by having some evidence-based knowledge and just being a little more prepared to navigate the onslaught of information, a lot of it being misinformation in this topic. So that is the lens through which I'm going to tackle this topic. And I recognize ahead of time I'm going to leave a lot out because
It's a big topic.
it's a big topic, but I will say my resources section for this episode is more robust than ever before. I'm going to leave anyone who wants to dig deeper with a lot of really great resources, because despite how much misinformation there is in this area, there's also so much goodness. So I'm really excited for that. Let me get into it. So it is end of November. Some of you listeners may be in tune with something really big actually that just happened in the menopause space. It was actually last week. And it may be, if you're like me, you follow a million menopause specific OBGYNs online and you subscribe to every single menopause research review. So you've read about this a million times over, but maybe you just saw like a little clip of it. And let me tell you what happened. Last week, the FDA, in the US, the FDA removed the black box warning, which is that big scary label on prescription medications, from certain estrogen creams and pills used for menopausal hormone therapy. Michael, have you been clued into this happening?
I didn't hear about the update recently. No, I feel out the loop now.
Well, I mean, also it's like US specific and very niche, I guess.
Yeah.
But we're going to talk about it. And here's the thing. This is a really good thing, like a really, really great thing. Yet it also, this really great thing was accompanied by some weirdness, some misinformation. Kind of the crux of this topic is that this removal of the black box label from different estrogen products for menopausal hormone therapy was a huge pendulum swing from how menopausal hormone therapy, I'm going to go with MHT to keep this episode shorter because I'm going to say it 1,000 times, with how MHT has been talked about for the last several decades. And anytime there is a big swing from like public perception, there's a lot of opportunity for misinformation to fill the gap. So there is obviously misinformation everywhere. But I do feel like menopause is kind of a league of its own. There is so much confusing and contradictory and fear-based messaging out there, and we're going to get into all of it. But first, Michael, I wanted to open up to your thoughts. Like, I assume you work with a fair share of women in the menopause transition.
Yeah, I do. It's whether it's just maybe the demographic of people that tend to follow me on social media. I have a lot of clients who are within that demographic. Also, every time that I do a Q&A on social media, there's always so many questions around menopause. And I tend to kind of signpost people or to accounts that I really like. Dr. Jen Gunter, once again, I'm just going to keep mentioning her every time we cover a topic, hopefully to try and get her on the podcast. Kate's got the book there. Love it. So I always kind of signpost to people that I think will be able to provide a lot more information than I can. So I'm actually really excited for this episode. I'm sure I'm going to take home a lot of nuggets to pass on to my clients.
So.
Yeah,
I do hope so. Do you find it challenging as a male practitioner to talk about menopause?
No, I like to think just because of the way that my messaging is and the way that I am as a coach, I always put my cards out on the table right at the beginning. And I'm like, please, everything that you want to talk to me about, I'm open to listening to, whether that's like menstrual cycle or menopausal symptoms. So I like to think that the way that my coaching is, I feel quite approachable. I'm sure there's some clients who haven't felt comfortable sharing some things with me, which I completely understand too. So yeah, it's... being a male trainer within this space, I appreciate a lot of the skepticism about working with a male trainer for certain topics, right?
Fair. I am just a really big believer that we don't have to have personal experience to have expertise. And actually, let me tell you like kind of most recent years of interesting experience I had. I got my pre and postnatal certification, or pregnancy and postpartum athleticism certification, 2018. So I started working more closely with a lot of pregnant and postpartum women. That was like 5 years before I gave birth myself. And then when I was pregnant myself, I had a lot of other pregnant women or recently postpartum women wanting to work with me. And I think because there's like a lot of solidarity in that same experience, right? And then after I gave birth, I had this like slight reckoning with myself that I actually am now so clouded by my own experience. I don't feel as equipped to coach this population. Like I still am. I have the knowledge and experience, but like my own experience has really clouded a lot of things for me. And it was a really interesting experience of like, oh, a lot of times, you know, you get pregnant or have a baby or something, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, now you know how to navigate that. And I'm like, oh, I think I really knew how to navigate it before. And now it's harder to navigate for me because I had personal experience and stuff. So
that's really interesting.
I don't know if that's the same with menopause. But I took my first like menopause specific course in 2023 because I really, in like kind of the past 2 years, I have been fully immersed in learning as much as I can because it's important and because that's where so many of my clients are at. And I'm glad to know as much as I do now before eventually it comes for me. And like maybe I'm clouded by personal experience. I think, you know, that's not to say that's everyone's experience, but it definitely has been mine in one way.
I respect the honesty there as well. It's funny, isn't it? Because I can always fully accept when someone says like, I don't want to work with a coach unless they have experienced XYZ with me. Like you see a lot of people within the weight loss space being like, I wouldn't work with a trainer unless they've been through a weight loss process. So they will never be able to understand and appreciate that. I don't know whether I agree that's true either. I just think that you just have to acknowledge the lack of experience and be open and honest about it. And then I think that it's fine. Because you'll see many people saying like, I won't work with a male OBGYN, for example. And like, you kind of have to respect that, absolutely. But there still can be some very brilliantly expertised, fantastic practitioners within the space that you maybe wouldn't work with because of that opinion. I hope I'm saying that right. But it's...
no, I think you are. I think both are true. I think that's the reality. Both are true. And it all comes down to comfort level of the client themselves.
Agreed.
And I see it both ways. Anyway, let's do it. I have not been through menopause, but I'm going to talk about it. Michael will never go through menopause, but he's going to chime in.
I'm going to chime in when it feels appropriate and when I'm not going to get cancelled, maybe. I don't know. Is that...
There we go.
Yeah, there we go.
So if you are a woman in your, let's say like, I think it starts in your 30s, 40s, 50s. Honestly, if you've just opened Instagram in the last year or ever in your life, you've probably been told your hormones are broken, or your metabolism is going to shut down if it hasn't already, or you need like a $68 menopause supplement to fix it. And oh boy, are we going to get into all of that? But I have to preface with like this essential reminder: menopause isn't a disease. It's not a disease. It's a normal evolutionary adaptation that contributes to this, like to the absolute survival of our species. It's not shameful. It's not dirty. It's not bad. It is a phase of life. And it is so important to be informed about it. And before we wade into like the noise and the marketing, I find we're going to just like set the stage a little bit with the actual physiology, the stuff that is real and not up for debate. But I'm not going to go into too much of that because again, I've got some good resource for you. If you want to dive deeper, we're going to talk a little bit more about the implications in a bit. But during perimenopause and menopause, there are some massive and impactful hormonal changes happening. Estrogen in our body declines, and not in a gentle, predictable way, but in a really like wildly fluctuating way, and then it gradually drops. Progesterone also declines, especially as ovulation becomes less consistent, and those shifts contribute to things like hot flashes and sleep changes and mood swings and brain fog, and all very super common and very normal side effects or symptoms. But that doesn't mean they're great to go through. They're for many very miserable. And importantly, aging is happening at the same time. And so decreases in activity and increases in stress and changes in sleep all layer on top of all of these hormonal changes. And I think the wellness industry just loves to blame everything on hormones, but it's almost always a mix of aging and lifestyle and physiology, right? So when we understand better what's actually happening within our bodies, not like a fear-based version, but and more evidence-based version, I think often what we're experiencing can feel less overwhelming. And when we understand understand what's normal, we can reduce shame around it and have better tools to work with. I find it really helpful to think of menopause as akin to puberty, right? It's normal. It's a natural hormonal shift in a woman's life. It can be really messy and uncomfortable and disruptive, but it's not a pathology. The experience like puberty is really individualized, and some people just kind of like breeze through it a little bit, and some people have a really miserable time, and a lot of people fall in between. There are some incredible science communicators out there right now, clinicians, researchers, OBGYNs doing the work and helping women really understand what's happening in their bodies and advocate for themselves. And I think more importantly, like feel less confused and alone. And I will link those, like I said, in the show notes. I've got my book right here, The Menopause Manifesto by Dr. Jen Gunter. It's a hefty book, but it is a fantastic one. I think like
I've not read this one.
Everything
I read the Vagina Bible. I've not read this. I do
So
want to
good.
read it. I've bought it for lots of people though who have
Yeah.
let them know they're going through menopause and they've loved it.
Yeah. It's so good. It's so empowering because of the way she writes and who she is as a practitioner. But anyway, that's highly recommend. But again, today, instead of like, what is Menopause 101, we're going to do something different. So we're going to talk about how to maybe cut through the noise, the misinformation, the predatory marketing, the hormone hacks, the scare tactics, all that stuff, and get a bit more to the actual evidence and physiology and strategies that don't rely on fear as much. So I want to start with a few grounding facts just to clear up some of the confusion. So menopause itself is defined as 12 consecutive months without a menstrual period. Perimenopause is the transition period before that. So it can last like 4 to 10-ish years. Hormones are fluctuating all over the place. It's really dramatic, sometimes really miserable. And all of that as a whole is the menopause transition. There are so many common symptoms. I think I touched on them a second ago, but like hot flashes, sleep changes, mood shifts, weight redistribution, brain fog. They're all so real. They all impact quality of life quite a bit. But the good news is we do have a lot of evidence-based support for many of these symptoms. I think what feels crucial is understanding that when things feel scary and uncertain and different, it's a really good opportunity for misinformation to creep in. So it starts with a lot of misconceptions that we hear around menopause, like your hormones are out of balance and need fixing, or fat gain is going to happen no matter what during menopause, or your metabolism is going to tank, or every symptom you're feeling needs a supplement to fix it. And I think the worst of it being menopause itself is something to treat as if it's a disease, but it's not something to fix. It like is something that literally has to happen.
Yeah, I would put this as kind of up there as one of the most kind of talked about topics amongst like wellness grifters, probably the best way to describe them. And I don't know, it's a mixture of people trying to exploit a vulnerable group who are looking for answers that are usually dismissed by the healthcare system, and also people trying to really oversimplify it as well to some extent. So it's a bit of a messy ground.
I think so. And I think in that messaging, what gets lost is that there's many effective and safe ways that we can manage symptoms of menopause. But a lot of times women aren't getting that help and support. And actually, here's an awful statistic. Although about half of the people on this planet go through menopause, less than 15% have been found to receive effective treatment for their symptoms.
Yeesh.
Yeah.
That's not a good stat. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I recognize I'm not there yet, but I really want, it's such an important topic to me, and I will be there one day, and so many of my clients are there. And so the first course I did in 2023, menopause coaching specialist certification, it was so good. And a lot of it was like, I kind of already know the basics are the basics, but I feel like this massive takeaway I had, and I hope I'd already been here a little bit, but just like even more depth of the impact of compassion and understanding during this phase of life, and recognizing that there is so much stigma that women are carrying around menopause. And so much of the discomfort of the menopause transition happens alongside such huge shifts in life, right? Like maybe you are going through perimenopause and all of these wildly fluctuating hormones at the same time you have teenagers in the house, or kids leaving the house, or or you start taking care of your aging parents, or, it's just like an amalgam of different stressors that often like exacerbate what's happening. I think that was just such a huge takeaway. It's recognizing, I think you and I, Michael, we work in this space, we talk about it, and we don't always know that it's such a taboo topic because we are communicating about
Agreed. Yeah,
different facets
I was going to
of
say
health.
that. Yeah. Yeah, I completely agree. And I think you're so spot on there. Because we work in the health space, sometimes we can feel like these topics are a bit more comfortable to discuss for many people. And they are not, unfortunately. And that stat is wild, 15%.
Yeah, there's a 2023 study too. So that's like
That's really
very,
recent, yeah.
very recent. Why, Michael, do you think, or like what are some of the reasons you think menopause is such a taboo topic?
Ooh, that's a question. I don't know. I think just any topic around women's bodies tends to feel like a bit of a taboo subject, and people don't feel too open or comfortable to discuss. Mostly like the wellness industry is kind of pushing this message on people that we have to try and stay as young and possible, stay as young as long as possible. It's all about like anti-aging skin and do these exercises to stay young. And so maybe people just don't want to openly discuss a part of natural aging. It probably feels a bit weird to do that in a space that really discourages it. So maybe a bit of that lack of research around anything related to women. So therefore, like effective management is not very well advertised or probably well researched. There's probably just so many different avenues.
Michael's getting nervous. I wasn't looking for a specific
No, I know I was.
just-
I know. It felt like a really big question, because I actually was thinking about this, and I'm like, I wonder if Kate will tell me at the end of this episode about why it's so taboo. Yeah, but I think it's probably that. It's probably just so multifaceted, isn't it? Where
I think so.
yeah.
I mean, we live in this current culture that is obsessed with women being like youthful and fertile and aesthetically pleasing. And what is more taboo than an aging woman, really? Like no longer in childbearing years, often seen as like maybe less relevant or less valuable. Like I hate even saying those words out of my mouth, but I think there is a lot of thought that is a truth for some populations. And I think because of that, menopause maybe becomes something more to hide, or like at least push through it quietly.
Yeah,
like
but I think
deal with it on your own.
that's probably like everything to do with like breastfeeding, for example. Don't do it in public. Oh, that's gross.
Yeah.
Like don't talk about your menstrual cycle and period blood because that's really gross. Like it's just another thing where, where it's kind of people are made to feel guilty for openly discussing it.
I think so. And like if we rationally think that about half the population will spend about 1/3 of their life in this transition, doesn't that just, it feels illegal.
Yeah, it's so true. Yeah.
We should talk so much more about this. And yet so many women enter this transition with like minimal education or preparation, or not a ton of real understanding of what's happening in their bodies, because it is complex and it's hard. And I do think that like silence and shame also is another perfect setup for more predatory marketing, right? Like if people don't have good information, it does exist. It's just like, are we talking about it, right? Someone will gladly scoop in and sell it in a bottle or a pill or a hormone balancing protocol. Now, okay. Oh my gosh, Michael, we're like 25 minutes in and I'm still in my intro. So let me try to be faster here.
No,
we
don't.
have
I like
to
it.
talk.
We might have to do a part 2 here, Kate.
We have to talk about like this really, really pivotal event in women's health. And that is the Women's Health Initiative. Okay, quick overview, because this is truly where like misinformation tsunami around menopause kind of kicks in more. So I'm going to read directly from the government website. The Women's Health Initiative, WHI, is a large long-term study funded by the National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute to investigate risk factors, prevention, and early detection of serious health conditions in women, particularly cardiovascular disease, cancer, and osteoporosis. It was one of the largest women's health studies ever conducted, enrolling over 161,000 women in clinical trials and an observational study to examine the effects of diet, hormone therapy, and calcium and vitamin D supplementation. And it started in 1991. It's still going, by the way. Started in 1991. The Women's Health Initiative is a very solid, well-designed study. So the study itself isn't the issue, but there was some science communication around it, specifically a press conference released in 2002 that has created decades of fear. And here's what happened. There was many arms of this study. And like I said, it was a really good study. And one of the arms looking at menopausal hormone therapy, MHT, for women was looking at various facets of health. How did MHT impact breast cancer risk, cardiovascular health, stroke, etc.? And there was a finding, I think this was in 2001, that risk of breast cancer was increasing with use of MHT.
Is just a quick question. Is that the same thing as HRT that we say in the UK?
Yes. Yeah,
cool.
it is.
Okay, just checking.
Yeah, and so menopausal hormone therapy is hormone replacement therapy, but the literature has shifted to using MHT as a more menopause-specific terminology. And actually, Dr. Jen Gunter talks about this a lot because she's quite passionate about the topic, because you're not actually replacing hormones at this point. Right. The hormones are going away. HRT is more for those with like gender affirming care and other things. So anyway, but yes, that's a good point. Thank you. So same. So when this was found, they immediately stopped the MHT arm of the study. And this press release was put on. And here's what the press release said. There is a 26% increase in breast cancer risk for women taking MHT. And that sounds very terrifying, right? That's like scary. I don't like that. But what it meant was for every 10,000 women on menopausal hormone therapy, there were an additional 6 cases of breast cancer per year. 6, not hundreds, not thousands, 6 per 10,000. Obviously, we don't want any breast cancer, but to put it into perspective, drinking 2 to 3 glasses of alcohol a day increases breast cancer risk by 20%. Obesity increases that risk by 20 to 40%. That's like double what this finding was. Having a first baby after 35 raises risk by about 40%.
Wow. Okay.
So the context or the nuance wasn't something that made it into the public conversation. And another aspect of the Women's Health Initiative was that the average age of the women in the WHI was 63. So many women were well beyond the window where starting hormone therapy is considered safest. And those results were then generalized to women in the 40s, 50s, experiencing early perimenopause, when that's not necessarily fair to generalize it across those different populations or age ranges. So the impact of this finding and press conference was very immediate and very profound. MHT use dropped dramatically right away. Physicians became really hesitant to prescribe it out of fear of causing harm or facing liability, and women were kind of left without a way to manage symptoms. And the stigma around menopause tightened even further and kind of perpetuated this like, just navigate it in silence type of thing. Like there are no options. And it was just such a huge tidal wave of misinformation, right? And it's not that the findings were incorrect. It's just that the
nuance around it was...
Yes, they were reported incorrectly. So there was a reassessment of the WHI data in 2007 that clarified that the timing of MHT matters significantly. So women who start hormone therapy within 10 years of their final menstrual period actually experience lower than expected risk of coronary heart disease. Women who start it later had a slight increased risk. So the window of safety is really important, and it's been really reinforced by more recent research. We actually now have very clear evidence that MHT can be appropriate and effective for treating hot flashes and preventing osteoporosis and improving sleep and addressing genitourinary symptoms and even reducing the risk of certain cancers like colon cancer or type 2 diabetes. And let me say there are still risks: blood clots, stroke. Yeah.
But I guess it's all, once again, the nuance is missed, isn't it? And like you weigh it up against like how negatively your life is impacted versus how much more positive that can be when you're taking this medication, even if it does increase. Yeah. Okay.
Exactly. And because the communication was like so alarming and incomplete, there was this massive information gap. And I do think that that's kind of where wellness stepped in a little bit more. There was a bigger push towards like bioidentical blends and compounded pellets and detoxes and supplements and all that stuff. The reason I'm like setting the stage with this is because this really shaped the landscape of menopause misinformation that we're navigating today. And I just like, this is full personal opinion, but I think it's a shared opinion. It was like a root moment in history that set the stage for the modern menopause marketplace, if you will, and a lot of predatory messaging. Okay, but now I have to swing back to what I talked about first.
Okay.
You tell me I'm getting excited? Yeah.
Yeah.
the recent removal of the black box label. This was a big deal because of the last, what is that, 23 years of misinformation or miscommunication around menopausal hormone therapy. So this is like something to be celebrated, is a really good thing. But it came with its own misinformation, which is so upsetting. So you'll have to look up some of the clips from this press conference, Michael. And I'm like, should we have done a press conference again? Did we not learn? Because RFK Jr. is up there and he's saying some certain things like, women die of menopause. And like, what?
He's a moron. What a moron. Like,
yeah. There was just like an astounding amount of misinformation. But
Classic.
if we go to the HHS or the FDA website and take the section from this recent press conference, I want to read it out loud just to give you some context. It says, studies have provided evidence that starting HRT, MHT, within 10 years of onset of menopause can have numerous benefits, which for most women outweigh potential risks. That is true. That's just what we talked about, right? Benefits include a reduced risk of all-cause mortality and fractures. HRT has also been associated with a 50% reduction in heart attack risk, 64% reduction in cognitive decline, and a 35% lower risk of Alzheimer's. I will put the link to this exact page in the show notes. And what I need you to do is go click through those studies, because the first study, reduced risk of all-cause mortality, is a 20-year-old study. We click on the next one, fractures. This is a 45-year-old study.
Wow.
1980 observational study. HRT has also been associated with 50% reduction in heart attack risk. That is a study from 1991, 34 years ago. 64% reduction in cognitive decline, 20-year-old study, and 35% risk of lower risk of Alzheimer's, a 29-year-old study. Good information on these topics does exist, and we didn't get it here.
That's wild.
There are updated numbers on all of this stuff because there actually is research on menopausal women. HRT may reduce all-cause mortality and CVD risk when started earlier in menopause. Like, there is studies and these findings do exist, but what this specific report did was cherry pick the highest possible numbers from like the last 45 years of data. And that makes me rage. It makes me rage because we want improved access to menopausal hormone therapy. This is such a good thing, but we also deserve good information.
Yeah, agreed.
So there's a doctor, Pauline Mackey, and she's kind of like queen of cognition and menopausal hormone therapy. I will link to her page because she has a lot of good stuff to say with updated numbers on what this actually means for cognition. And then our favorite, Dr. Gunter, did a little Substack on this as well. So anyway, I'm looping it back because it's like the pendulum swung so far in the opposite direction. This is all a good thing. We're going to celebrate that women probably now have more access to menopausal hormone therapy, which is a great thing. But like also like we deserve proper science communication rooted in facts and evidence and not just what sounds best. So I can't remember who this was. Maybe it was Dr. Gunter. Someone recently last week said, if you underbake a pie, that's the WHI. If you underbake a pie, you don't solve the problem by overbaking the next one.
I like that. That's awesome. Yeah, that's a good analogy.
Don't underbake your pie and then solve the problem by overbaking the next one. 36 minutes for me to set the stage, which I think I'm really annoyed with myself because I think I said that phrase like 10 times. But I feel like it's so important because there is no question to why we're riddled with so much misinformation around menopause. Look at what the main science communication has told us, right? And when we lay that groundwork around like the physiology, but also the cultural silence and the gaps in education and the ripple effects of the WHI and the pie baking, the pendulum swing, I think it makes sense why we have this environment of misinformation. And unfortunately, I think a lot of what women are being told today around menopause is more from like TikTok or celebrity partnerships or hormone coaches than clinicians or high quality research. And both exist, great clinicians and high quality research. So what I want to do now is walk through 4 big areas of misinformation that I think show up most around menopause and kind of do a little bit of debunking there. And these are the narratives that Yeah, our favorite. These are the narratives that I think confuse people and scare people and push them towards solutions that either like don't work or waste their money or maybe even put their health at risk. And as with anything, I mean, how much do you and I talk about this, Michael? There's like kernels of truth or big old nuggets of truth in everything. So when we take that kernel of truth, it just makes it really easy to spin out of control and think, well, all of this is true. And like, not so.
Sure.
Do you have a guess of what any of these are, by the way?
I don't want to guess wrong, so I'm going to say no.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's fair.
I'm just so as you said that, I was like rattling through my head of like the questions I've been asked in the past, and now my mind's gone blank. A lot of it is around like supplement use, like what supplements work, if there are any supplements that do work, because that supplements always seems to be people's first port of call because people inflate the importance of them. I guess it's probably going to be like an exercise focus, but yeah.
Look at you. You know it.
I
Good
know.
enough.
Yeah, it's there. It's there in my brain somewhere.
You've got it. I had no doubt. Okay, first point of misinformation is the idea that we can test our way into understanding if we're in menopause or a custom menopause hormone therapy plan. I didn't expect you to get this one because I doubt that you are riddled with Instagram ads telling you to get hormone specific test protocols about, are you in perimenopause, whatever.
I get sent so many weird videos that my phone now thinks they want to do coffee enemas. So that's where I'm at, Kate. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Actually, Michael sent me a video today of a guy saying,
this is one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Tell him what it was.
It was a bodybuilder, I guess if you want to give a term to it, explaining how he does extreme cuts to lose weight. And he was saying that he uses meth.
Yeah, crystal meth.
Crystal meth. Periodically.
He's like, it's a good appetite suppressant for, what's it called?
Shit.
Lean maxing?
I'd never heard that term before, but like.
It made me cringe.
Yeah, but they're using crystal meth. I'm going to have to do a post on this at some point because this just blew my mind. I'm not quite ready for it yet because it's horrific. Yeah.
I like actually did the jaw drop like in a cartoon.
Yeah.
When you sent that to me.
Like Tom and Jerry.
Okay,
style.
anyway, so we don't, at least there's no crystal meth misinformation. But I do think
cloud.
This is one of this idea of like hormone testing and menopause is one of the biggest scams happening in the midlife wellness space right now. And the idea being that you need this like expensive hormone panel to diagnose menopause or personalize your hormone journey. And I think the language is a lot about like precision and optimization and tailoring treatment to your unique hormones. And
sounds just like Gwyneth Paltrow.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
And if we look at the evidence, like it falls apart really quickly. So there was a recent BMJ analysis, British Medical Journal, in 2024 that called out the rise of this routine hormone testing, and it highlighted why these are problematic. And they said these panels cost hundreds of dollars. They are marketed as essential for individualizing, got air quotes here, therapy, and they do not help diagnose menopause or guide treatment because hormone tests are of very limited clinical use for menopause. There is no therapeutic window for menopausal hormone therapy that can be determined through blood levels. Like that doesn't exist. So also many of these tests aren't even accurate enough. Like if that were to be the case, hormone testing cannot tell someone if they benefit from MHT. It cannot predict when your final menstrual period will be, and it cannot tell you when it's safe to stop contraception. And it can't diagnose perimenopause or menopause. Perimenopause, like if you see a hormone graph about perimenopause, the wild fluctuating roller coaster of hormones.
I don't think I've seen one of those graphs before.
It looks absurd. It's wild.
I'm searching this right now, Kate.
To think of a single blood draw giving you a long-term picture is like bananas. So it comes back to this idea of balancing hormones, which we can't do ever, but especially during perimenopause or anywhere in the menopause transition. So
holy moly, I've just seen one of those graphs.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So every major medical body agrees that routine hormone testing isn't necessary. British Menopause Society, ACOG, all the others say women over 45 with symptoms, menopause is a clinical diagnosis. And what that means is that perimenopause and menopause are diagnosed by symptoms. Like, and the process is eliminating those symptoms as being due to something else.
So I was going to say, is it because it's quite hard to monitor all of the different hormones throughout that complicated time?
Yeah,
that you
it's
just
too much.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and there's no like optimal hormone range. So
Sure.
it's just like an impossible ask. And so we know menopause is diagnosed as 1 year after the final menstrual cycle. And some women will have like a menstrual cycle and then go like 11 and a half months and then have another. Like you don't even know you hit menopause until a full year post final period. And I think despite that, a lot of women are maybe showing up to practitioners with these long, hefty hormone reports like, help me with this, and or going to these companies themselves who are selling like compounded hormones or custom hormone preparations. And we talked about compounding at length in our season 3 GLP-1 episode, and I think it's worth knowing about compounding pharmacies. And let me say, like, compounding pharmacies and compounded medications are not bad. They're actually really important, and they help meet individual needs around different medications. But they come with a lot less regulations, a lot fewer regulations. They are not regulated like standard FDA approved menopausal hormone therapy. They haven't been tested for safety or effectiveness. And often the doses and combinations aren't very evidence-based. And sometimes the thing that annoys me most is they're marketed as like natural, bioidentical, or safer. And there's like zero data to support that. So takeaway here, you can't out test menopause. You can't lab test your way into like a magical custom hormone protocol. And the symptoms kind of dictate what is actually happening in your body. But there's no need for these expensive hormone panels and unregulated custom hormones.
I'm trying to think. They're selling supplements for this and calling it like natural or whatever. It's just such a nothing word. Like what does it mean?
Yeah, it doesn't mean anything. Area of misinformation number 2 is the idea that you're stuck with menopause belly. And the way I cringe every time I read that like very disparaging term of menopause belly is tough for me. It just feels so icky. But this idea of, quote, menopause belly is like gaining fat in your midsection while also having a lot more bloating. And a lot of times people say like cortisol is why you have menopause belly or whatever that may be.
That's something in my questions quite a lot. Menopause belly.
Yeah.
Quote.
And is it real? Like, short answer, kind of, but not necessarily in the way that the internet will often claim. So I'm sure you get this a lot, Michael, like a client saying, you know, what I've always done isn't working, or I'm gaining fat, but I'm not doing anything differently, or I've never held weight here. And that's all really valid. And so I'm not saying that none of those thoughts or observations are not real, because they totally are. But what is happening is we have this decline in estrogen, right, throughout the menopause transition, and that shifts fat storage more centrally. So estradiol drops, FSH rises, and the body starts storing a higher proportion of fat in the abdomen. We have visceral fat around the organs, and that fat is a lot more metabolically dangerous to us. But this is also a normal redistribution that happens with aging, and then the compounded hormonal changes. The literature actually shows that men and women gain fat at roughly the same rate in their 40s and 50s. So menopause absolutely plays a role here. I'm not saying it doesn't, but there's also the facet of age. Like age changes body composition and fat redistribution a bit. What's also happening is age-related sarcopenia or muscle loss. Losing muscle means lower overall energy expenditure unless we actively work to maintain strength, and that can change body composition. And then the tough one, sleep disturbances and stress, which impact appetite and weight.
Everything.
Yes, and everything. So like poor sleep changes hunger and satiety hormones. You have higher cravings. You struggle with decision making around the food. That all sucks. And I do not look forward to the time where I will be dealing with this in certain ways. At a higher,
We're just like in this stage of our lives right now, Kate, right, with small kids, and I know you kind of know that sleep disturbances mess you up, but when you've experienced a period of like messed up sleep, everything goes wrong.
Everything is bad.
Everything. Food choices, exercise motivation, energy levels during exercise, like all these things just suck. So yeah, it's brutal. It's so brutal.
It is. And so I've got my other book here. I'm doing this like second menopause course right now called Advanced Training in Nutrition and Recovery Strategies for Midlife Women, Menopause Plus. And I'm almost done with it. It's been really great. But it keeps emphasizing that like sleep is going to suck through menopause because you have hot flashes and all these like vasomotor symptoms and such. But that poor sleep is going to exacerbate not having like reactive leptin that tells you you're full. So you're going to have to eat more to feel satiety. and that's going to impact your body fat, which is going to impact your sleep. And it's like, give me a solution, because everything you're saying is terrible. Like, make it better.
Yeah, that's
Please.
so brutal.
It always really scares me.
Yeah.
But another thing I think we often miss is that insulin sensitivity can change. So lower estrogen associated with increased insulin resistance, or less insulin sensitivity rather, and a higher risk of metabolic syndrome. Both of those things then in turn, and I guess it's kind of a loop again, promote more visceral fat storage. So all of this leads to an increased abdominal fat, or specifically that visceral fat, which then impacts health. Now, the idea of menopause belly is gross because I don't like that word. But the reality that we're probably seeing a redistribution of fat from more spread across the body, specifically for women, a lot of times it's like hips and thighs, right? To centralized location in the midsection is real. But here's what's not real. Metabolism does not tank during menopause. That's not accurate. The other things I just talked about that do happen. But the best research shows that metabolic rate stays stable throughout 40s and 50s and does not significantly slow down until after 60.
Interesting. Okay.
Menopause does influence metabolic health, but we're not talking about metabolic rate as much, right? Estradiol also impacts appetite regulation, like higher hunger, higher likelihood of overeating, less likely to feel full and satisfied. Boo to that. And then again, the sleep disruptions that we're talking about. But what is not real is like, your body is broken, you're going to gain this fat and there's nothing to do about it. The idea that these changes are happening because you're letting yourself go, that's like disgusting and not true. Or the idea that like balancing your hormones is going to fix this. And I'm actually going to add one more, the idea that menopause is the only reason for body changes in midlife. That's not true. Aging plays a role here. So we have to think about what is menopause specific, what is aging specific. We probably don't know because they are one and the same for most women, right? Now, it's not very positive, but like I do believe that anytime we understand the why behind specific changes, we can respond with more like strategy than panic, right? We can look at our patterns. We can practice more hunger management strategies, and recognize like, this isn't a willpower thing. This isn't a willpower problem, right?
Yeah, but if you can't tell someone they're not working hard enough, you can't make them feel shit about themselves and then easily sell stuff to them, Kate. So will you stop ruining the wellness industry, please?
Yeah, I will. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're trucking along. Number 3, you kind of called this one. It's about workouts. HIIT. HIIT is dangerous in menopause. You should not do high intensity interval training. You should only walk, preferably with a weighted vest on you.
Of course. You can't walk without one.
You've had to hear. Yeah. I'm sure you've heard so much about this. I think I could say this definitively. In the past year, I have had more questions, like personal questions in my DMs, not in the Q&A box, about weighted vests than anything else.
Yeah. What happened? Like, what happened in the world that started everyone talking about weighted vests?
It's actually I think it was Dr. Mary Claire Haver talked about weighted vests. I think that's what happened. And then a lot of other people. So this is everywhere. And I think it's a really good example of like tiny grain of truth turned into sweeping rule with no nuance. So let's talk about the straightforward version. HIIT, high intensity interval training, is not bad for menopausal women. Walking with a weighted vest is not the only form of movement that improves hormones or metabolic health. What is true is that chronic high volume, high intensity training with poor recovery is going to negatively impact sleep. It's going to worsen stress. It's going to exacerbate these symptoms. And many women, I think, in this stage of life are already running on high stress and low sleep and a ton of life responsibilities. So more intensity without adequate recovery probably makes you feel worse. And I think it's not a huge population of the world where you're working out too hard, right? Like most of the world is sedentary. But I do see this quite specifically with women trying to like out train, the body changes happening.
Sure.
Like if I just go harder, then these body changes won't happen, right?
Yeah, we spoke about this a lot, didn't we, in the cortisol episode, I believe.
I think so. Yeah, you're right.
Where it is just like managing your overall load. It's the really boring part, right? Like if you're stressed out, lack of sleep, that kind of thing. don't go and smash your body to bits doing HIIT training. Like it's
Right.
it to be as simple as possible. Like that's kind of it. Yeah.
And I think like increasing that low intensity movement, NEAT movement outside of structured exercise is good. This is going to improve. It's going to help you manage blood sugar. It's going to address that insulin sensitive, everything. And here is what often gets missed in all of this talk about the weight redistribution and body change, etc. A lot of times this period of life with way more stress comes with less movement unconsciously. Right? Maybe symptoms have you feeling so crappy that you're not up and out and about a little bit more throughout the day. That does make a difference. So increasing our NEAT, like walking, low intensity movement can be helpful. Sure, weighted vest can like add a little extra load.
See, I just think that's going to ruin a good walk. I'm not wearing, they're uncomfortable to wear, right? I'm not wearing.
They are.
First of all, I think I'd look like a bit of a donut. Where I live, if I walk around the weighted vest, I'd probably be egged by some kids walking to school. But I just think it would ruin a good walk for me. Yeah, not for me, Kate. Do you know, most of the people I work with, it's like the thing that we start with, right? I'm like, right, what's your daily activity like? Just how much walking do you? And 9 times out of 10, people don't do very much at all. And if you just have one thing you want to change to improve your health, walk more. It's so basic, but it can make such a big difference.
I think for some, the weighted vest like makes the walk feel more productive. Now, should we buy into this whole idea that everything you do has to be hyper productive? Probably not. But I did see, I'm not going to drop the name, very big menopause influencer with the weighted vest doing deadlifts.
Oh, what?
And I was like, that makes no sense. Not unless, just that.
Unless you've maxed out your weight stack and that's the only way to make it heavier, please don't do that.
It makes no sense. So there's that. HIIT is not harmful for all midlife women. You don't lose your ability to handle intensity. That is a silly, silly belief. Did anyone see that 80-year-old woman who just finished an Ironman?
Oh, yeah.
Don't tell her she lost her ability to handle intensity. Come on.
She crushed it.
Intensity doesn't automatically like spike cortisol in a bad way. But what the nuance that we should take into account is movement impacts insulin sensitivity more than almost anything else. Like HIIT, strength training, walking, interval training, tempo run, cycling, rowing, whatever you're doing, it's good. It's really great. Just make sure you have appropriate recovery. Now, we must give a special shout out to lifting as well, right? Sarcopenia and osteopenia, loss of muscle mass and loss of bone mass are huge issues for women, especially with age, actually for everybody, but I think it's exceptionally important for women. And not long ago, researchers in Australia were actually the first to demonstrate that postmenopausal women, so we're talking after the final menstrual period, can not only stop bone density loss, but they can actually reverse it by lifting heavy weight.
Awesome.
And for a while, the literature hadn't found this because they weren't lifting heavy enough. And once they like really packed on the intensity of lifts
with the weighted vest as well,
with the weight probably, they found that like these women, it's not too heavy that they're going to fracture their bones. They're actually going to improve their bone density and strength, and that's just like really awesome.
No, I was just going to say I've been working with a client of mine recently. I won't name her because I haven't asked if I can say her name. She is in her 70s and she's just started strength training for the first time. Maybe like 6 months we've been doing this now.
Love that.
She has crushed it. Like she's now going into the gym with so much confidence and feels so good. I love working with clients who are in that kind of older age bracket. I hope that's not an insult. And seeing how life-changing strength training can be. Like it's just
awesome.
Yeah, it's so cool. Like it's honestly the favorite thing about my job. I love it.
I love that. I think for this section, let's take away that like menopause means an increased risk of developing heart disease and diabetes and osteoporosis and other things. The goal shouldn't be to tell women not to move.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
Don't tell them to not move in any certain way, or they need like menopause specific workouts, because that's just silly.
I guess would you put the kind of like pregnancy and exercise in the same bracket, right? Where it's like, got to treat yourself really carefully. Like you can't do anything, you know, like a nice delicate.
You're not like a fragile little egg.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Movement is going to be so much more beneficial than harmful. Okay, let's bring it to the last point of misinformation. Supplements. You called this one. I literally titled this section, "You need a supplement for that." The supplement world is so much. We've talked about it so many times on this podcast. But like, I feel like the explosion around menopause is even more, I don't know, specific and problematic. Like on one hand, we love to see menopause talked about more openly. Visibility is great. Yes, a language for symptoms of women, like they deserve options and support. That's all great. But the part where like this conversation is happening at the same time influencers and celebrities and like some big name online OBGYNs are like shilling supplements that are not so evidence-based is just so ick to me. Of that, what is more visibility and less stigma around menopause, and what is like a multi-billion-dollar industry cashing in on confusion and vulnerability? Let's talk about it, I guess. So I think those selling supplements, we see some influencers with massive platforms, some celebrities looking for a revenue stream, looking at you, Drew Barrymore. Some naturopaths or like midlife specialists. And unfortunately, I think some healthcare providers leveraging like their MD or DO titles. And the messaging is like, balance your hormones, boost your metabolism, fix menopause naturally, support weight loss. And it's marketing. Episode 40 of our podcast, the sneaky side of supplements, I think it was called, talks about what an underregulated industry supplements are. I think we talked about turmeric in there. There's a lot of turmeric in these menopause supplements. And I highly suggest listening to that for like a broader view of the supplement world in general. But I think a red flag to look out for is products claiming to fix everything. Like a supplement that's going to help with weight and hot flashes and mood and gut health and sleep and focus. It doesn't exist. We wish, right? But like, trust me, if it did, Big Pharma would have packaged it and studied it and patented it and marketed the hell out of it decades ago. It doesn't exist now. And I think there's a lot of concern for the proprietary blends in a lot of these supplements, which we've talked about before. We don't know what goes in them. There's blends with no disclosed dosing. And it's kind of a supplement manufacturer saying like, we won't tell you exactly what's in here or how much you're taking, but trust us, it's like really good.
Yeah. It's so funny. It's like, take this supplement to fix menopause belly. And then and then it's just like the most vague reference of how it might help improve your health. It's so funny and exactly. Incredibly heartbreaking to see all the time as well. It
is. And I think I feel a lot of frustration with there's like some really smart, incredible, visible online clinicians, especially OBGYNs with like mega followings, doing amazing work, educating women and talking about menopause and like opening up conversation, dialogue. And then the next slide, they're like promoting supplements with proprietary blends. And you're like,
come on.
It kind of feels like the black box warning situation where you're like, hooray for visibility and access, but like, ew, why do you have to like then undermine trust with this misinformation? And anytime we're like blurring the line between like education and commerce, it's like, it's really hard to know what's real.
CK, I don't know if you agree with this. I don't think that we're going to have loads of coaches listening to this not agreeing with me, but I don't think personal trainers, coaches, nutritionists should promote supplements at all. I don't think that they should have discount codes for supplements. I don't think that they should advertise them in any way. I think we should openly talk about the benefits and if they might help certain demographics. But it always just gives me the ick. I don't know if that's the right terminology, but there's something about it that just makes me feel uncomfortable every single time. Even if it's a supplement that I use all of the time, like creatine monohydrate, a whey protein supplement, there's something about it that just removes the professionalism of it that I don't like.
I really agree. And I get it. Like, I guess if, you like feel really aligned with the company, so you create a partnership or whatever, but I am always myself like a little turned off by that. And I think it's part of who you and I are, Michael. I think it's fair to say you and I are like really values aligned practitioners in our space. And like, for me, when I think of a partnership, I'm like, I need to agree with everything this company does and know that they're never going to like do a sketchy proprietary blend. And I'm not putting my eggs in that basket or whatever. And so I find a lot of times it's like, oh, like how much research did you do before you had a My Protein code? And I don't know what My Protein is, by the way. I just said that. I have nothing against it.
Devalues the argument of how beneficial some things can be as well. I think that's the bit that always frustrates me. I just feel like we need coaches speaking up about the awfulness of the fitness industry and the supplement industry. And then I think if you're then taking money from it, even if it's from a good part of it, it just makes me uncomfortable and I don't like it.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
I welcome people's thoughts on this, by the way. Like, please feel free to message me angrily
Me-
or kind of in
Yeah.
good faith. But there's just something about it I don't like, and I never have liked.
Yeah. Don't message me angrily, please.
No, just
I really don't.
send it to
I
me.
really don't handle it.
I'll cover the names and forward it to Kate.
There we go. Just send it to Michael. I get really sad. Okay, so the reality of the guidelines of what we know around supplements and menopause. In 2023, the Menopause Society released this updated recommendations for non-hormonal therapy, and 0 of the ingredients in like trendy menopause supplements were on there. Which, a side note, like shout out to one of the coolest things I've learned about menopause and non-hormonal therapy is that cognitive behavioral therapy can actually reduce the degree of symptoms that women deal with.
That's cool.
Isn't that really cool?
That's really cool.
So can mindfulness. Like, that's really cool.
Yeah, I love that.
That's really cool. Let me tell you what supplements do help.
We'll give the discount code to the end of this episode.
I will give you the discount code in the show notes. Any nutrients you're deficient in, of course, a blood panel, working with your doctor to supplement. Creatine, which we talk about in an episode. This is our most listened to episode ever, is our creatine episode. For women already engaged in consistent strength training, there can be some benefits as far as muscle mass and bone mass. However, that's the caveat. You need to be already engaged in consistent strength training. The benefits don't apply if that's not the case. And as far as cognitive benefits, I feel like that's a very big TBD. There's a lot of research in the space, but saying there are cognitive benefits with creatine usage for menopausal women is not like a hard and fast thing we can say right now. Then let me share something that is really cool. And I'm not promoting the supplement, but I have to share how cool this research is. Our team does monthly power hours. So one of the coaches takes on a topic and we like do a deep dive, kind of like this, and share with the team. And 1 month someone did metabolism, and they shared this study that 12 weeks of omega-3 fatty acid supplementation for menopausal women, 3 grams a day of DHA and EPA, increased resting metabolic rate by 14%.
Wow, that's huge.
Energy expenditure during exercise by 10%, and fat oxidation at rest and during exercise by 19 and 27%, respectively, in healthy older women.
Wow.
That's like big numbers. Those are big
Yeah.
numbers. I will obviously put this in the show notes. I think it's worth more looking into.
Eat your oily fish,
that's-
folks.
Yeah, because it's really interesting. I've gone over an hour, but I'm going to do my best to wrap this up. And I've really rushed through so much that I wish I could talk more about. But let me first say, evidence-based information is so important. And I really believe it's okay for us to do our due diligence as we search out other treatments and alternate opportunities and options, because we know our bodies best. But we should be aware consumers, and just having some baseline information helps us go out there and navigate all we're being told. There are evidence-based strategies that actually support our health through menopause and help with symptom management. It's strength training for muscle and bone health. This is a non-negotiable. Adequate protein intake, prioritizing sleep as much as one can. And I'm talking about like sleep hygiene. Like, you can't stop that. Maybe you're having hot flashes at night. I mean, you can menopausal hormone therapy maybe, but like, doing what you can within the constraints of what's going on. Stress management and recognizing that stress does look different in midlife. Getting enough fiber, honoring hunger cues, and I think a big mindset shift is, instead of like, what I've always done isn't working, recognize that like your body is different now and our needs are different now. So maybe doing something different is required, right? As far as menopausal hormone therapy goes, it's not for everyone, but there is a lot of evidence to support symptom management. And we can also use this knowledge to distinguish between MHT and like an unregulated hormone balancing blend. I hope that this has been helpful in recognizing like menopause is not a problem to solve. It's a stage of life that we can understand. Our body isn't malfunctioning. It's transitioning, I guess, like just like with puberty. And the wellness industry often profits on when we feel most broken. So the more we understand our physiology, the harder it is for someone to profit off our insecurity. And there's a million more things I didn't even get to, but I hope this was a good start. And I hope it maybe even played a little role in like opening up dialogue around what women are going through this transition and how we can talk about symptom management and knowledge in a way that's going to be helpful for everybody.
I love it. You nailed that, Kate. I enjoyed it.
Good. I'm glad. Did you learn something?
I did. No, I genuinely did. I found that really,
good.
really helpful. It's it covered all the questions that I always get through my Q&As. So I feel
Love
informed.
it.
Thank you very much. That was
Good.
awesome. We, as always, if you enjoy these episodes, please do review the podcast. Leave a little review if you can write it on your platform you listen to. Just hit the little star button if that's all you can do. Please share the podcast with anyone that you know who you think would enjoy it, especially if you think someone would benefit from the certain topics that we discussed, like today's menopause episode. We really appreciate you listening. And Kate, that was awesome. Loved it.
Thank you. Thank you for listening.